I'm working on the cussing. That's 2 in one go already.
That is 2. What is wrong
I don't
with you?
know. I'm sorry. Here's the thing. Casey's wrong because we edit for continuity, not content.
Welcome to the Beacon House Podcast, recorded live in Knoxville, Tennessee.
And that's how I accidentally blessed the rains in Africa, South Dakota. A place that is so untalked about that you didn't even realize it's not even a real place.
What?
Africa, South Dakota.
Did you just say this is a place that's so rarely talked about because it's not a real place?
Yeah, I made it up.
I don't even know what to say. Folks,
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's what the anti-vaxxer will get you sometimes.
Casey has blessed the Beacon House podcast with another famous intro about imaginary place. Just want you to know, a couple episodes ago when you heard about Cream Can Junction, that really was a real place.
And you really can't fuck a potato there.
No, you can't. And this is the Beacon House podcast, and I'm Spence.
I'm Casey. That's Hunter, who's laughing because clearly this is the third time we've tried to do this part.
Okay. I'm Hunter. Casey's full of shit right now. I'm working on the cussing. That's 2 in one go already.
That is 2. What is wrong with you?
I don't know. I'm sorry. Here's the thing. Casey's wrong because we edit for continuity, not content.
Yeah, we're also a visual podcast.
It's true. Well, it's on Snapchat now, apparently, so it's partially true. Guys, how you doing?
How crazy would it be if Africa, South Dakota was a real place and I just didn't know it?
It's so bizarre, I honestly thought you weren't kidding for a second. I missed the part where you said it was crap.
This is clearly a bit from Last Week Tonight that John Oliver does. And it's one of my favorite things where he's like, you know, he'll show a map of South America and he'll be like, Uruguay, a country so untalked about that you didn't realize that this isn't Uruguay. This is Uruguay. In fact, no, it still isn't. And it like keeps moving on the map until finally he goes, and this is Uruguay.
I wish you hadn't given him credit. I'm proud of you for it, but I thought that was all you.
No,
that was great.
It's not. I really enjoy Last Week Tonight. I know it's a comedy show and I shouldn't get all my news source from it, but it's a pretty good show.
I mean, it's no worse than like the friggin' like the Colbert Report or
the Alex Joneses of the world.
We're not
It's not political, Casey. We're not talking about the politics of it.
I could care less if he got kicked off iTunes,
I know you.
Spotify, and YouTube.
No. This is.
I understand free speech is a thing, but that guy is cancer.
No, you can't say that. Here's the thing.
Yes,
okay,
I just did.
No, you're right. I can't say that you can't say that because that's shitting on your free speech.
And
Here we
is
go.
yum. That's right.
Well, the second part's not as important. No, but okay, so here's the thing. On YouTube, there's Eminem Music, which isn't even his main YouTube channel, but 29 million subscribers, so it's on their radar, right? The song Kim by Eminem, where he describes killing his wife and doing so after murdering her lover and his child, not Eminem's child, but the lover's child, I guess, or whatever, is still up on YouTube. If you go to Slipknot's main page, that's not even an unofficial one like Eminem Music or whatever, that's a celebrated band, and their actual tracks that is supported by them that is on YouTube, Disaster Piece. The first lyric in the song is, "I want to slit your throat and fuck the wound." That is why I have a problem with the Alex Jones thing. I agree with you not liking him. I don't like him, and I think he's an idiot.
You know the problem with your argument right there already is?
Because that's art and he's not?
Exactly. Lyrics and music is a form of art. Alex Jones, if he considered himself a parody and was doing it as like a comedy stunt, yes, but he literally sells like pills that he says does something. It's completely false advertisement, snake oil salesman kind of bullshit.
That's different from getting rid of him because of him.
How is it different?
You mean just like GNC? Oh, sorry.
Ooh.
No, but see, you're right there, and that's fine. Get rid of him for that. But they got rid of him because of the stupid shit that he says. And it's incredibly stupid. No, it is. It's incredibly stupid. And I understand I think it is.
I don't think it all is.
Well, I'm not saying everything he says.
Oh my
I'm
God.
being general.
You know, this is the guy who forgot his own children's name because he ate a big bowl of chili the night before, right?
Well, if you found out the frogs were getting turned gay, I think
That was hilarious.
Custody battle.
That's one of the funniest videos I've ever seen.
the frogs gay song meme or whatever. No, but okay, so here's the thing.
Honestly, I kind of wish Alex Jones didn't get kicked off iTunes and Spotify because he's a great version of what not to be.
No, that's fair too, but it's scary to me because it's a double standard that's being thrown way out there.
Because I feel the same way about John Oliver.
No, that's okay.
I think one of them.
I think Spencer over the last 2 episodes is trying to become like
No.
enemy number one, the most talked about one.
I will say this. Here's the thing. They're both saying things that aren't completely true. They're possibly attached to a thread of continuity that's possibly somewhere in a million years in the neighborhood of like actual factual things like that. The only difference is Alex Jones is not in the cool club and John Oliver is.
Well, see,
John
that's
Oliver's painted to be like the accepted guy, just like a lot of the media, just like a lot of Hollywood, and it's like super liberal, super like and the thing, I think it's just a big dog and pony show. I don't believe any of these people. They're not humanitarians. You know what I'm saying? The problem with Alex Jones is Alex Jones has a bunch of crazy stuff, but I feel like if you were to take John Oliver and Alex Jones, and including same thing with like CNN, MSNBC, all of those, and merge them into like, let's say for some reason you could know the barrier of truth that they all share. I think Alex Jones would have just as many like feet in the circle as all the other ones would. And outside of it would be untruths and crazy stuff.
What are you talking about? This guy is the guy that said that frogs make people gay. And John Oliver tells people who don't know what gerrymandering is what gerrymandering is.
No, he said that the frogs were becoming gay.
I see. I haven't heard that. I did not hear. If I heard Alex Jones say, I'd be like, Alex Jones is fucking crazy. Alex
or
Jones
that lizard people live in the center of the earth and are controlling us through the New World Order.
Or Sandy Hook victims were.
Or Sandy Hook victims are actors and those kids didn't actually get shot in that school.
I have not heard Alex Jones say those things. I don't listen to him a lot, but I've heard Alex Jones say a lot of stuff.
So
that
you're
100%
sticking
true.
up for him, but you don't know exactly what he stands for.
Do you know what Bohemian Grove is?
Yes, I know what Bohemian Grove is.
Yeah,
It's 100% real, and Alex Jones is the only one that talks about it. That's a true thing. That's real.
Yeah, but he says so much crazy shit that all he does is ruin its chances of actually being brought to light.
I'm not saying
No,
I think
you're
that Alex
right
Jones
there.
is sane.
Like, I understand John Oliver is a comic, and his new show is a comedy show. However, every Sunday night when he does his show, he has a 20-minute segment at the end of the show where he talks about something
How much
that
he hates
people
Trump
aren't-
again.
No. He
Or
hasn't
something,
even
you know?
talked about Trump in the last few times. The last 2 weeks ago, he talked about sexual harassment and brought up a lady from the 1990s who was basically just outcasted in front of Congress about her problems with sexual harassment in the workplace. And this past week, he talked about prosecutors. There's been times where he talked about standardized testing, gerrymandering, the prison system. He talks about things that people don't talk about in the news. And sure, he brings up jokes in the middle of it, but he also lets people know who don't watch Fox News and CNN and only watch HBO for Game of Thrones and happen to be just sticking around at 11:30 at night. Hey, there are problems in the world, and these are things that the news don't cover.
Okay, so I think the argument's already gone in the wrong direction, though. I'm not even trying to defend Alex Jones. I'm just saying that it concerns me that corporations, and granted, some of them, if not all of them, that got rid of him are private, so it's their right. But it concerns me that someone is being silenced by an entity instead of the actual people, because that is going to, one, you could say militarize factions of defenders for him, in a verbal sense, not violently, but so that's going to make them feel oppressed or something, and they're going to get all uppity and up in arms about the whole thing. And then there's also the fact that you're taking away people's ability to make decisions for themselves. If Alex Jones is such, and anybody like the John Oliver guy that Spencer doesn't like, if they're that crappy in general, then it needs to be left to the people to decide to not give them ratings. They stay where they are because they're making money for whoever is publishing them.
Sure.
Well, you also know why these people are getting rid of Alex Jones is because of the Sandy Hook thing, and two parents from the Sandy Hook, of Sandy Hook victims,
No doubt
are
about it.
suing him. And these companies aren't dropping him because they're trying to attack freedom of speech. I think they're trying to back themselves away from this lawsuit that clearly he cannot win.
And let me say something before we go any further. I have no idea what he had said about Sandy Hook. There was a point where, and I also used to listen to Art Bell. Do you guys know who Art Bell was?
I know the name.
Famous radio show, came on late at night.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he talked about a lot of like
Coast to Coast.
Art Bell, Coast to Coast.
Did he have the alien guy
what's
on?
it called? The Kingdom of Nye or whatever.
He talked mainly about like ancient
A
alien stuff.
lot of aliens.
Yeah.
A
Okay,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah.
Area 51. A lot of guys that claim to have been decommissioned from Area 51, and they like now they've got cancer and they're going to die, so they don't care who finds them, and they're just going to tell all this crazy stuff. And it was a lot of fun to listen to. Maybe it was bonkers, but there was a certain like romance to it. Well, that guy's long gone. I think if anybody knows where Art Bell
Yeah,
is,
no, I think he passed away.
that's sad. And he was not like Alex Jones. Art Bell was a very articulate, like very smart guy with a super compelling radio show. He was like a real radio personality. Compared to that guy, Alex Jones is batshit crazy. I'm not saying that he's not. I'm just saying earlier in his career, he kind of touched on some of the same stuff. He talked about aliens. He talked about conspiracy. He talked about a lot of stuff. But then he would go nuts. And that's when I generally would tune him out. Like, this is a crazy person. But he was on to something there for a minute. That's my whole opinion of I'm not trying to defend by any means InfoWars or any of that crap.
Exactly.
I'm just saying I feel like the fact that guy got pushed out of the pool, for regardless of what he had to say,
It's dangerous for everybody.
yeah, it says something terrible. And I'm also not shitting on John Oliver. I'd like to also say I think John Oliver is an extremely articulate, very well. He's a good speaker. He's easy to listen to, and he does say some really funny shit. I've YouTubed bits with John Oliver before when he's doing something really, really funny. I just think that these days there's sort of like this club and like all the pop, like fucking Late Night with Seth Meyers, even Jimmy Fallon, who was pretty objective until very recently when literally you were told you had to make these jokes and they all have to be about the current administration, and it completely alienates most of America in what they call the flyover states. Like everybody between New York and LA doesn't necessarily feel like that. And so I just feel like John Oliver is just another part of that big media machine. And it's just kind of sickening to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, not necessarily everybody feels that way. Like it, and again, this is not a pro-Trump speech or whatever, but the guy won an election. Somebody voted for him. So they have families. They have relatives. You know what I'm saying? Like, just the fact that you can't turn on TV without somebody shitting on that guy. I get it, and you're supposed to be critical of the president. You're supposed to hold their feet to the fire, and that's due process, and I understand all that kind of stuff. But you would have to be fantastically deluded to look at the media these days and not see that there's like kind of a slant going on if you just see the media like lining up to the cattle chute, and they just keep doing the same thing. To me, John Oliver is one of those guys.
Yeah.
Now, are you telling me that late shows now talk more about the administration than like Jay Leno and Dave Letterman?
Now more than ever, yes.
Really? Because I think
100%.
Bush was made fun of just about equally.
Bush was made fun of in a different way.
He wasn't made fun of aggressively.
He was made fun of like he would say something funny at like a barbecue, or he would like, I mean, it was like comedy. It's not comedy anymore. Like now it's literally dividing families at the dinner table.
I guess I can't really say anything because honestly, I stopped watching. Honestly, kind of for those reasons, is every time I felt like I turned on the TV, it was some sort of joke about politics, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm tired of it.
And I get right after the election,
draining.
when it was still hot, and I get like it's still going on. Like one of my favorite shows was the Tonight Show. It has historically been, because when I was little, Johnny Carson hosted it, the greatest talk show host of all time, in my opinion. And like I still have this romantic attachment to the Tonight Show. I still think it's the best production, the best skits. And anytime I try to watch it now, it's just like it's a whole monologue of like Trump jokes, and I'm just like, Jesus, man, like, get fucking over it. It just gets old, Like, again, I realize Trump is a fucking complete anomaly, and I'm not pro-Trump. I want to say that again. I'm not supporting this guy necessarily, but just to see that many people just blindly jumping on this bandwagon, like that's the kind of thing that disturbs me way more than politics or anything. Just to see that many people just blindly lining up to get mad at something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we're in it's really like the
it's mob mentality,
lynch mobs from the Frankenstein movies.
There's a witch hunt, and it's dangerous, and it's made its way into like things that shouldn't be. You know what I mean? Like comedy ought to be safe.
Yeah,
comics shouldn't be like, you shouldn't go to comic and feel like that you're being like, polarized for how you voted. You should just go like, people are funny, and I know, and I get it. Like, but you can't joke about anything else these days.
But see, that's what I was concerned about, was not defending anybody, but challenging the ruling made against Jones.
But so talking about Art Bell with Alex Jones, he would bring up, this is Alex Jones in a nutshell. The steel beams and the 9/11 explosion could not have been melted by jet fuel fire. Instead, and then this is where people were like, okay, interesting. That's fair. The heat doesn't get hot enough to melt steel. What do you think it is, Alex? And he's like, instead, and everyone leans in, he goes, I think the lizard people went up there and spit acid all over those steel beams and knocked it down. And they go, oh my God.
And you know what? Alex
Jesus.
Jones also made his own bed, and he can lie in it. If you watch the podcast he did with Joe Rogan's a friend of his, apparently.
And
He wanted to fight.
But
No,
Alex
the guy
also...
got hammered and was like punching the other guy that's in the room.
Yeah, but that's as aggressive
Joe had
as
to
he
go,
got.
all right, everybody get out. And then Alex was like, come on, Joe, I didn't mean it. He was like, no, man, you're out of control. We're done here. I love you, Alex, but we're done.
But
I
up
get
to
it.
that point, he was still saying the same stupid stuff, but he wasn't red in the face and screaming and jumping up and
Yeah.
down and all that like he did on InfoWars. That's what I'm saying. To be fair about it, because even though I don't like the ruling that's been made against him with these places, he did make his own bed and he can lie in it. He knew exactly what he was doing with the whole like lizard people went up and spit
I'm not
acid
saying
and
he's not
everything.
an idiot. I'm not saying that he's not bonkers. I'm not saying none of that. I'm just saying that like some of the stuff he talked about, like the super high conspiracy about like aliens and some of that kind of stuff. Like, and honestly, I don't believe that the jet fuel melted the steel girders in the
No, it
World
didn't.
Trade. I feel like there was something.
That's a whole...
That's a whole other thing.
Look, if you want to talk about conspiracy theories,
No, I'm not.
I'll go down this rabbit hole.
I'm not
with
ready
you.
to get that. But the thing is like there was like the first 30% of the Alex Jones thing, he was talking about stuff like that, and it was kind of engaging. Like I thought it was entertaining to a point, and then he would start screaming and talking about chili, and like I'm like,
Do you think he's just mad that he wasn't invited to participate at Bohemian Grove?
no, I think he's a little crazy. I think Alex Jones
My-
is maybe a
my-
little crazy because he does the stuff a
think he's
crazy
a lot of
person.
crazy.
It's not what he talks about because Art Bell talked about a lot of crazy shit, but he talked about it like a sane person. Fucking Alex Jones talks about some of the same stuff, but he's wearing like a Bugs Bunny suit and waving a steel dildo. You know, like,
My favorite thing about Alex Jones is that he'll try to sell these pills.
Hat tip to George Carlin.
And these pills, and he'll show before and after photos, and he'll literally be like, here's me before I took the pills, and it's a picture of him, and he's like, here's me after I took the pills, like a month after I took the pills, and it's him again, same size, nothing's different, except he's just really red, like his whole skin looks like he's been sunburned, and people watch this and go, yeah, Alex Jones, I'm gonna buy that stuff.
But
And it's
does anybody really think that? I think most people go,
are you kidding me? That's how he kept
that guy
InfoWars
just
alive.
literally took a picture and then held his breath and took another picture. You know, like there's no
I'm here
there
to
are
tell you that there are
people-
people, yes.
There are people
really believe
dumb
that.
enough out there to buy this shit. The same people who buy stuff off jewelry television.
Well, okay, let's be careful in calling them dumb though, because you gotta understand that there's the problem of echo chambers on all sides. We've talked about it before with like the popularity of the popularity of the popular echo chamber, where it's like you were just saying, the whole anti-Trump thing and all that. And I did not vote for him, so I don't like him.
I did not either. So before we go any further, if it sounds like I'm,
God, who cares?
But no, this is what
well,
I'm.
because
this
if
is what I'm saying.
somebody goes, hey, these guys are like we're not a pro-Trump podcast.
There's also the echo chamber of the
you
people.
guys are
that-
sticking up for Alex Jones, though.
No, we're not.
Nah, we're sticking up for free speech, right,
Yes,
Hunter?
there is something to be said for the echo chamber of the people that feel unheard in, like Spencer was talking about, the flyover states, where they know that the slant is mostly like liberal leaning and all that stuff. It doesn't justify either one of them, but that's how people fall into the trap of like buying into the Alex Jones in the first place. It's like, no pun intended, it's like the Jim Jones thing. They go, well, these people ignore us and they think we're dumb as dirt and we're just a bunch of stupid hicks that can't get a good job. You know what? Fuck you. I'm supporting my family. I got this, blah, 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 blah. And this guy's funny and I like him and I agree with him. And that's all it
Here's
takes.
some Kool-Aid.
No, that's what it's. They're drinking the Kool-Aid on both sides. It's more mob mentality. It's just they're not being heard, I guess. Or that's not true, but they feel like they're not being heard. And that's the danger of both sides of it. That's the Fox News and the CNN of the whole thing.
You know what I've found that helps me through times like this?
Not giving a shit
Not
about
giving a
politics.
shit about politics.
Yeah.
You know what's great is today you guys saw that thing about Alex Jones and you're like, wow, that's attacking free speech. I want to say something about that. You know what I did is I was looking online. I saw that and I was like, and I scrolled down and went, ooh, puppies. And my day was 10 times better.
I love that about you, Casey. I really do.
We love you for that. We really do.
I don't know if Spencer had that
Look,
reaction.
us talking about this right now is tearing us apart. That's what politics do to people when you bring it up around the table.
Now this sounds like a Hall & Oates
The footsie
song.
you're playing with me under the table disagrees with that.
Ew.
There's an entire power supply between me and you. I'm not playing footsie with you.
It still sounds
Oh,
like a
maybe
Hall.
it's the cables.
You're playing footsie with the power supply.
This still sounds like a Hall & Oates song. The power between us. So
What
Look, let me say this. When
found your touch shocking.
I certainly did not get up mad when I saw that Alex Jones had been banned from stuff. But what I did was I looked at where all he had been banned. Like, who else ganging up on this guy? Crazy or not. And it was like big conglomerates.
Yeah.
It was like Apple, iTunes, Google. It was like a big, and I was like, okay, so all the cool kids at the table have like kicked the weird guy. You know, like I've just typically grown up, always been kind of skeptical of like the cool club, because I don't see like a whole, sometimes there's a, I don't know, maybe protection in it, but more often than not, I see like a sense of like fraternization with like power. You know what I'm saying? And like, maybe Alex Jones was that crazy and they kicked him out because of that, but what if the guy was like calling people out? What if they didn't? They were like, okay, silence this guy. Like, there's some kind of censorship going on there.
I can guarantee you he did not do that to
Well,
them.
they could cancel his show. I feel like there's other. You just go, look, we're not going to renew your show.
No, to be fair, I could be wrong about this, but I think his show did get canceled, and he somehow brought it back with whatever money he had. Do I have that? Is that right?
Yeah, from selling those medicines
The
and
turn your red drugs.
Yeah,
Sure, I get it. Anyway, Alex Jones did make his own bet. He can lie. And again,
Yeah.
And I will say this, even if, and this is a big if, I can't technically prove that it's not true, but I don't necessarily believe that everything Alex Jones said was true. In fact, most of it probably wasn't. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, everything he said was true. Some of that's still not fit for public consumption.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not, if there really are lizard people and aliens and all this crazy shit, and you eat chili and you forget your children and nobody got killed at Sandy Hook or whatever, that's not the kind of stuff you put on your talk show. You know, somebody's going to get mad, and somebody that has the money is going to make you go away.
And what's weird is the lizard people is the crazy part. The NWO, not so much. That I can talk to people about and get into.
So see what I'm saying?
That one's a little scary if you think about it.
Well, that's like the banking system and all, like the Federal Reserve and all that kind of stuff. Like, that's the big conspiracy. It always comes down to like money and those families that have power, like the Rothschilds.
Well, and also you have, it's been said that the New World Order will start with another like big civil war, and you can look right now with the right and left that people are going to fight and turn against each other, and that's what they want.
That's why I'm such a big proponent of independent thought.
Look at the right and be mad at them. Look at the left and be mad at them. But make sure you do not, for whatever reason, look at me and what I'm doing behind closed doors.
That's always that. That's what I'm saying. It's always diversionary.
Look at these keys. Look at these keys. Exactly. Look what the Duck Dynasty guy said again. He said some crazy stuff.
They've been doing diversion tactics ever since we entered the nuclear age, and the aliens showed up and wanted to know what we were doing.
They probably used it on the aliens. They're like, oh my God, have you guys ever tried McDonald's? Come over here. You know? And then they taxed the shit out of them.
Oh, man. So the Meg movie got good reviews, apparently.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm nervous. I don't know.
I'm out yet?
No. Well, critics see stuff early. I'm just trying to get us out of Alex Jones.
Thank you. No matter what, I'm going to go see Meg. Even if someone goes, it's a big dumpster fire and it's the worst movie ever.
I'm going anyway.
Jason Statham versus the Megalodon. Yeah. Why wouldn't I go?
I just want to watch a Megalodon for 2 hours.
I was going to say, there's not a way the movie can fail. If it's great, Spencer and I are over the moon. If it's stupid, we still got Jason Statham fighting a Megalodon. It's fine.
Yeah. No, it's my favorite creature that ever lived.
I'm really hoping it does well, because I think if it does,
we'll get another one.
We'll get more based on the books,
which would be freaking.
Have you even read
awesome.
those books?
Huh?
Did you read those books?
No, you guys put me to sleep talking about them. So no,
that
I
was
didn't even. Is that not part of the same series?
Not technically.
It technically is. Anyways.
Oh my God, who?
No,
the Meg series is really just like sharks fighting giant other things. It's basically like the whole Godzilla thing, but underwater.
Yeah, it's sharks fighting dinosaurs.
Vostok and The Lock were also written by the same guy, but they're kind of like a sister story that shares like one character, but it's not. You totally don't have to read those to understand the Meg lineage, you know. And it all starts with this one shark, and then it has babies, and I think there's even one called Meg Generations, because it has offspring. That may be the new one that's coming out. But
he did another one.
Here we go again. Get some John Oliver videos up so Casey will wake up. Shit.
Can we get some Vicks for your nose or something? That was ridiculous.
I have a deviated septum. Leave it alone.
Shit. Way to make fun of Casey.
I also didn't know what that was, and so
what?
like a deviated septum. So for the last few years, I literally have just been like, I always like have to clear my throat, or like feel like my throat's drying out, or like I have a lot of phlegm going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the septum that wears a leather jacket and goes against the grain. Doesn't do what the teacher tells him.
I'm going to push.
He smokes cigarettes outside, and he's got a friend named Pony Boy.
No, that's non-conformative septum, not
That's
deviant.
the deviant.
That's
septum.
the outsider septum. Go.
Stay gold.
But I
Stay
had
gold
this-
septum.
I literally
Stay
like
gold.
2 or 3 years ago, I had this weird lump feeling in my throat, like a rock or something, or like oh god, I knocked my mic into my face. But no, like I had this weird, like every time I swallowed, it felt like you have like a frog in your throat, and your throat's like sore all the time.
Yeah.
No,
I was going to make a
sucking
joke.
cock
I was
jokes.
going to make a joke, but I do know what you mean.
We saw it on your face.
I saw it coming.
He's like, I had this thing
You
in my
got,
throat.
you got giddy. You're like,
I'm trying to. I'm trying to class it up a little here.
so I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like looking down my ear, looking down my throat, being like, "There's nothing there." They would give me medicine for it to like help me out. Nothing was working, so I went and saw an ears, throat, and nose doctor, and he went down there, and it turned out that I was using Q-tips wrong and was pushing wax, and it, like wax fell down because you have tubes in your ear that drain into your throat, and
Yes.
that's like like tonsils and things like that get irritated, and so I had a clog of earwax, as gross as it sounds, get into one of those pipes, and it felt like something was stuck in my throat, but it was just
buddy.
that. So he literally just took the vacuum into both my ears and blew it all out. But while he was looking at my nose and stuff, he goes, "Oh, you have a deviated septum." He's like, "We can get you set up to have that fixed." And I said, "What's a deviated septum?" He goes, "Basically, you have a hole inside your nose. And so whenever you breathe in, it causes like cotton mouth really bad, or like dryness of the throat, makes you snore a lot. Usually it comes from like if you have a lot of colds or a lot of sinus problems and you're blowing your nose a bunch, or messing around with your nose with like paper, toilet paper and stuff, putting toilet paper up there, can cause deviated septum." And I was like, I had no idea. So like I'll be talking like this and then have to clear my throat. And so I didn't know what it was, but now people are just like, "Oh man, you snore like a mother," and I'm like, "Yeah, well, that's my deviated septum."
I do too. I wonder if I have a deviated septum. I snore
like that
like crazy.
self-edit you
A
just
lot of
did
people,
there.
I think a lot of people have it and just don't diagnose it, and because it's not something that's like detrimental.
Matters. Yeah. It's a comfort thing.
Yeah, like if you get it fixed, you notice a difference in breathing through your nostrils. I'm
You
sure.
sleep better? I wonder if you sleep better.
Maybe.
That's a big one.
No, I have a question because I got in an argument with somebody, and if they're listening, I'm not calling you out by name because
We love you, Jason.
it's not Jason. But I got in an argument with somebody because they told me that sleep deprivation does not cause hallucinations, and I'm pretty sure that's incorrect. I'm pretty sure sleep deprivation, one of the symptoms is hallucination if you're not getting enough
They
sleep.
just need to go listen to that episode of the. We talked about it back on our episode.
Yeah, we
Sweet
even named
Dreams.
the episode number.
Doctor, was it Michael? Fuck, what's his name? Michael.
The sleep
Bolton,
ambassador?
Michael Bolton.
Sleep diplomat.
Sleep diplomat.
That guy. So check that guy. He will tell you exactly what happens with sleep deprivation.
Why were they arguing this with you?
I don't know.
they just
I
being
brought
a
it up.
contrarian,
I brought
or-
it up, and I was like, I can't remember how it came up, but we're talking about somebody maybe having sleep deprivation. I was like, maybe they're hallucinating. And they're like, that doesn't happen. I was like, no, I'm pretty sure when you are deprived of sleep, you can start hallucinating and seeing shit that doesn't exist.
That's a pretty standard
I want to
symptom.
say that that's absolutely true. Just simply because, not that I'm sleep diplomat, but I'm pretty sure he talked about it in that interview with Rogan and with Matthew Walker. Is that the guy's name? Somebody
Maybe.
Google that.
Yeah, I
while
think
we're
it's Matthew Walker.
Okay,
That sounds right.
I'm pretty sure he talked about it, but not just that. I've experienced it. I've been so sleep deprived that I see things.
Well, I think a lot of people, when they suffer from sleep paralysis, is a form of sleep deprivation, as they didn't get enough sleep, and sleep paralysis comes from that, and that's where they see like shadow people and things in the room.
See,
It's
that's
like-
kind of what, like, you'll see like a shadow go by, and it gets really creepy. You will see weird stuff.
Have you ever heard of the is it the blue smiling man? A lot of
I don't
people
wanna hear about that.
No, so a lot of people claim that they have nightmares, and it's
I
like
tell you,
it's
it
like
doesn't-
tons of people. No,
It
it's
doesn't
like,
sound that scary. It sounds like something they used to sell tires.
no. It's like a bunch of different people all over having the same reoccurring nightmare. And it's like the people that don't know each other and don't talk about it. But apparently it's like they wake up in the middle of the night and they're in their room and they see someone, like a man, pop up at the foot of their bed and has this big, like, grotesque smile. And he's like bluish tint. And then they re-wake up and they're actually awake. And it's like something that follows, like, people have reoccurring dreams of this person.
I've never heard of it.
Are you Googling it right now, Hunter? Okay.
I've never heard of it. But even the suggestion of it could possibly cause you to dream about it, you know? Like if a rumor starts to go around, I could see how people that might be your very next nightmare, you know?
Yeah.
Just blue thing.
That's really uncomfortable, though.
Well, there are common like nightmares that a lot of people have, like falling or like being in public without your clothes on or whatever. You know, like there's certain recurring nightmares that people have. I don't know why it would be a smiling blue guy, but
Boom, the smiling man. First thing pulls up on Google. It's it's on a creepypasta, but there's other articles posted here of people who.
shit, I like creepypasta.
Creepypasta is awesome.
It
is.
No Sleep podcast? Anybody?
Oh
No
yeah,
Sleep?
it's
Yes.
wonderful. Easily as legit as Alex Jones. Probably a lot more.
Oh my
Why?
god!
Why are we talking about this again? We got so far away
I
from
don't
it.
know.
I didn't even bring it up.
I feel like I need to dehumanize him a little because it sounded like I was really into him, and I'm
No,
not.
it totally did.
I'm totally
you're
not.
like, dude, InfoWars is way better than Last Week Tonight, a show run by HBO that's way more popular than InfoWars.
Spencer didn't say that. He just said that he liked it more because it's truer.
One way or another, he said that.
I think there's more truth to some of it, but I believe in a lot
no.
of conspiracy stuff.
We got dragged right back down.
Do you guys want to talk about conspiracy theories?
I don't
I do.
know.
I mean,
do it.
I think we could really get into this.
Let's do it.
Well, how much time we got?
We're a little over halfway.
A little
Okay.
over halfway. I think we could fit one. What one do you think we? What
know.
conspiracy theory?
You
do
pick
think-
one and go, Casey.
Conspiracy.
I want to pick one. And
You
want-
pick the one that we can do half an episode on.
So, do you guys? I'm going to give you two choices here, and let's see which ones you pick.
Sure. Why don't you fire a bunch off and we'll comment on them? We'll just say, yeah, we believe it or not.
Denver Airport.
What?
What is that one?
You guys never heard? See, that's
See,
this is a problem.
I know I've heard the Denver airport
been
one, but I
in
don't.
a Denver airport.
Lay it on
So
us.
the Denver Airport is
Security was terrible.
well. First of all, here's the problem: is they think the Denver Airport is used by government officials to house congressmen and the president during a natural disaster, like a massive natural disaster, like Yellowstone erupting, or like something catastrophic happening.
I thought that
And
was Air
there's,
Force One. I thought they
there's
just went in.
No.
there's bunkers underneath the airport, and the reason people think that is because there are tunnels underneath the airport that have shown up in blueprints that have no, like, there's nothing to say what they are, and it also is to build this airport took $2 billion. There's also a lot of Illuminati and crazy, like, Bohemian Grove type kind of things where there's a lot of murals on the painting, like on the walls in the airport, that if you sit there and stare at them long enough, become more racist and like awful, of like children sacrifice and kids dying in mass. Have you not? I mean, you were in the Denver airport. You didn't see any of these?
No, nothing.
He
Like,
wasn't
it's
there
one of
when
those.
we
It's one of those things where you walk
Super
by
fucking
it.
boring airport to me.
Well, like, you walk by and you go, "Oh, that's just a neat little painting." But if you stop and like look at it and actually like look into the painting, you start seeing like some really weird shit.
I am Googling
There's that
it.
massive blue horse outside that a lot of people think is like supposed to be like some satanic symbol. It's really interesting.
Why would that be a satanic symbol?
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm asking.
A big
You said
blue,
you know.
a big blue like Mustang horse with fiery red eyes. That's just what.
Okay, that's
Well,
one might be people.
Sounds like some art students that live in a state where weed is legal.
That's fair.
Okay, so what's the other one?
I was going to suggest the most popular one that people want to always talk about is 9/11.
Let's go with the Denver airport.
That 9/11's a little. It's still a little hot topic to talk about. I was in the 6th grade.
I was out in Clinton working at the store where I eventually met Brandon Harmon, and I'll never forget. I showed up to open this restaurant, and there was this old guy named Bill Taylor that worked for me. And Bill, I mean, when I say old, Bill had been in like the Navy in World War II, so he was like probably 70. And he was one of my opening employees that day. And I showed up, and Bill was already there. And he was running around, and Bill was kind of one of these guys that just said a lot of like crazy stuff anyway. He was a real prankster kind of a guy. And I remember him talking, and he was like, "Come on, we got to get going. We got to hurry. We got to get in here because the terrorists done attacked, and like America's under attack." But that's just the kind of stuff Bill said. And I was like, "Bill, I haven't had any coffee yet. Like, I'm not in the mood for it, man. Like, just fucking let me get in here and open this place up." And I remember, and he didn't say anything. He's like, "All right." And we went inside, and the phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was his wife, and she goes, "Hey, he's not kidding. You should turn the TV on." And at that exact same moment, another phone line rang, and it was my friend Tater, and he said, "Hey, man, have you seen the TV?" And at this point, I literally just put the phone down and walked to the lobby and turned the TV on, and the second plane hadn't hit yet. And we were watching it when the second plane hit.
That's the same. I was in the 6th grade, and I was in class, and we didn't see the first plane hit, but the teacher came in for like in the school I was at, the sixth grade, like in the sixth grade, there was groups of teachers. So it's like if you had this group of teachers, all their classrooms were together. I was in reading or English class, and the science teacher came in and looked at the teacher and said, "Turn the TV on right now." And she turned the TV on, and we're watching it. Everyone thought it was like some sort of like promotion for an action movie, or it was like it was like fake. It was like a hoax of some sort. Even the reading teacher was like, what? And the science teacher was like, a plane just hit the Twin Towers. We really don't know much yet. And about 20 minutes later, maybe a little less than that, the second plane hit. And at that point, the teacher turned off the TV, and the science teacher came back in and saw the TV's off. She goes, "Turn that TV back on." And she goes, "There's children. I don't want them seeing that." She goes, "This is history. Like, you can't blind them from this. They have to know what happened and see this."
That's a good call.
Good for her.
And so the reading teacher was like, "Okay," and turned the TV back on. And I think like a couple hours later, the principal was like, I think all of Knox County was like, cut class. Everyone leave, go home. Because a lot of people were afraid because Oak Ridge, they thought Oak Ridge was going to be a
the whole nation was under attack.
I was in Anderson County, which for those of you listening, if anybody lives in Knoxville, you know Anderson County is like one county over where Oak Ridge is, which Oak Ridge National Laboratory is the famous nuclear hub and one of the top places in America that would get bombed if we did get invaded. And so you always hear people go, "Oh man, if they ever attack us, like, we're going to go first because Oak Ridge is right there." So I was in the same county as Oak Ridge. And it was crazy because a lot of my employees went to Roane State Community College, which was in Oak Ridge, technically, down the road. We were on the same road, but they were, and they started showing up at the store. And they were just like, "They closed Oak Ridge." And I'm like, "What, you mean they closed school?" They're like, "No, they closed Oak Ridge." Everybody had to go out. There's tanks going down the roads. Like, there were guys marching. They fully deployed like the military into Oak Ridge.
Like the National Guard?
Yeah, they had pillbox. Do you know what the pillboxes are? Like when you're driving down the road and it's like the place where the guy pokes out with a rifle, like guard shack gates or whatever. They had opened the pillboxes up going in and out of Oak Ridge.
That's smart though, like considering where it is and how little It
was nuts, man. It was so crazy, and like everybody's having candlelight vigils and stuff. And I mean,
my experience being a third grader was very much like you said with your fellow students thinking it was a movie or something. It never occurred to me that it was fake, but I didn't know it was happening at all either. We were just having class, and I barely remember it, but what I do remember is for a good chunk of that morning, the teachers all left, because we were in a suite as well, all left, and they were just in the main area between the classes, and we were all just playing. I was reading comic books probably or something, and then they either dismissed us because school got closed or they were taking us to lunch. I don't remember which. But we walked by, and that was the first time I saw the towers on fire and all the smoke and stuff, and I couldn't process it. I knew what I was looking at because I grew up watching action movies even to that point. But I didn't know it was real. I didn't know what it was. One of my friends at the time who wound up dying in a car wreck our senior year of high school, he saw it and said, "Oh, cool," or something like that. Because again, 8 and 9-year-olds, you're thinking it's an action movie, and he got in a lot of trouble immediately. Oh, yeah. And that's when it hit me, and I was like, "Well, that's clearly a serious thing," but still didn't know it was happening. And from my understanding, hearing about it after the fact, because basically that day I was just told stuff, and even then you can't really process it at that age. Everybody thought that it was an accident, I guess, to begin with, like some horrible tragic accident, and it took plane number 2 for them to go, "This is not an accident," and that's when the panic set in, and then the Pentagon happened too, and because the Pentagon's not even in New York, I'm sure that didn't help, but my understanding is that the entire country, regardless of where they were, went into red alert because they thought that we were just being attacked no matter where you were, and didn't know that it was like these central hubs and stuff. And all these years later...
And they grounded like every flight out of the country except for the Saudi royal family. And again, I'm not saying that I think, but there was some. Getting back to the original question, like I think that the magnitude of the tragedy of 9/11 is ultimately the most important thing. Like what happened, when it happened, and where were you when it happened?
Yeah,
like that's really all that we can take forward with us about this. But addressing the conspiracy part of it, there's a lot of stuff that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
I do want to say though, none of them are listening, but just it occurred to me. Shout out to the Flight 93 people, and their family. Like, Jesus Christ, like finding out all that stuff was going on. Or I don't even think they knew I don't remember what the details were, but just like to see that the plane was happening. No, they did, because they heard about the other stuff and thought, well, wherever they're going, it's got to be important. So we're downing this thing so that they can't get where they're going.
Or so they can't fly into
Yeah.
a building and kill a bunch of people. Like, we're stopping this.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's good there. But I actually don't know what most of the conspiracies around it are, other than it was an inside job. And I've heard the bombing thing because of the way that it collapsed. But I never dove into that conspiracy theory, so I don't even know what
it's a deep rabbit hole.
It is.
Like, if you want to dive in, I recommend starting with a documentary called Loose Change, where it's a whole documentary, talks about all the weird things that happened before, during, and after 9/11. How the Pentagon, when it was hit, had just a massive hole in the side of the Pentagon. There was no spot for where wings were to strike the building if a plane were to hit it. It's just one big circle instead of what it should look like, which is an actual plane.
Yeah.
And supposedly, like in New York, there was another building that fell down with no plane that hit it. And
they said, it fell down because of fire from the Twin Towers. But it's like, well, it's also made of steel beams. How in the world could that? And all the buildings collapsed in a very demolition, caved inwards.
That's
very
the one that
demolition
messes
way.
with me.
They fell straight down because the girders were cut at an angle, like you do when you demolish a building. And I mean, and
it's very weird, because if a plane hits a building from the side and it's going to collapse, it's probably going to be that it teeters over like someone cutting down the top of a tree.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it.
Point.
There's also people who said that they saw things and they were going to do like news reports and go out and be like, oh, this is what I saw. It's really weird. It's crazy. One main guy who said that he was in the tower and saw a bunch of weird stuff going on, happened to die of a heart attack like 2 days before doing a news report with the station that was going to protect him and get him to come in and talk about it. Watch Loose Change if you can find it. It's on YouTube. There's also another thing on YouTube that you can find, which is not related to conspiracy theories, but I think it's called 93 Minutes or something similar to that, and it's basically just every single piece of footage of 9/11. Like, someone compiled everything from people's camera phones, people recording it with their camcorders, news stations, local news station, like everything that they could get. They gathered all this material and put it in a little thing. Because that's, for me, like as a kid, I didn't realize the magnitude. Like you were saying, like I'm in 6th grade.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the magnitude of this. I knew it was historical and it was tragic and catastrophic. But going back now at, in my 20s and rewatching everything, it's like, it's terrible.
Well,
and you have people who are there on the street coming up, and reporters like, what's happening? And it's like, people are jumping out of the buildings, and they're like, oh my God. And it's like, yeah, it sounds like, I think one guy described it as wet bags of cement hitting the ground. Mm-hmm. And it's like the firefighter said he couldn't handle it. It was like, he's just like, he went in and he did his job, but it is just so traumatizing.
Yeah. Just to cover the podcast ads real quick, is the conspiracy part of it is interesting to me. I think I don't know how I would be curious to hear what you think about the interesting aspect of like the interest level of exploring conspiracies. Because again, for me, being so young, like I barely remember it, and I don't know much about building structure and everything else. So it's completely alien to me, except that I know it happened.
And some of it's sort of contingent upon who you hear.
Yeah, but
if you hear somebody that's super pro-conspiracy, they're going to tell you all the ways that it doesn't look like a natural catastrophe. If you talk to somebody that's super anti-conspiracy, they're going to tell you that, no, this could happen and that could happen, and they're going to point to certain things. So it's kind of...
Echo chamber?
Yeah, but none of the discussion is meant to discount the tragedy of it, is what I was going to say.
No,
like, those people died and all that. So
yeah.
That's the takeaway from it. That's why it's still, like... a lot
of brave service members fought,
Yeah, regardless of who was behind it, whether it was our own government or a big or some secret society or a new world order or whoever it was,
or if it was Al-Qaeda and all that.
Yeah, regardless of who did it, somebody did it, and we reacted heroically.
Yeah.
And every single person that died, it didn't die for nothing, and they all, every single one of their lives meant something, and like we moved forward somehow better, than we were prior to that. And there was a uniting force. And even though now it's real popular to divide the country, but like it's a unify. And we talked about that a little bit in the Big Brother episode and everything
True,
like that.
yeah.
Let me ask you guys another question. Let's move, because that's very who knows, but. And I guess a lot of conspiracies are kind of like that too. What do you guys think about Area 51?
I mean, it's totally housing something. I don't feel
I
like
recently ran across an article, one of those things where it goes blah 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 blah, like why Area 51 really is just a normal army base, and it gives this big explanation why like it was put there, but then like they were actually just testing American like army planes and stuff. That's why the area was restricted and all that kind of thing. But there was never supposed to be an alien presence and blah blah blah. It's really just a normal army base and like. And I get maybe that's true, but if that's the case, how come you can't even get within like I don't know what it's like miles of it, and it says anybody beyond this point will be shot. Like if it really is just like I don't know, some kind of like a fantastical story. If it really is just sort of like a people are just making that stuff up. If it's kind of a legend, then how come you can't just like drive right up to it?
Well, because I think that is where we're housing. But you can still get aerial shots of Edwards Air Force Base and all that stuff.
I mean, there's a military base right here on Sutherland Avenue. You can eat a burger across the street from it.
Honestly, I think that people... I think there's something going on in Area 51 deep down, like it's aliens, whatever you want to... Roswell.
Totally aliens.
However, I also think that the government knows people love that kind of stuff, and so they're definitely playing into it because they have something somewhere else that's way bigger. It's probably way more noticeable, and they're just like, no, let's let them think that Area 51 is where we're keeping all this stuff.
Have you guys ever heard the stories that like supposedly the bottom like 2 or 3 levels of Area 51 have been closed off for like years because the stuff that lives down there got so out of control it killed all the scientists and they had to just like seal the levels off and
I have not heard that at all.
Go on Hulu.
Oh, God, no.
Yeah.
Go on Hulu and pull up Area 51.
By Oren Peli?
Oren Peli, the guy that did Chernobyl Diaries and the first Paranormal Activity movie, did a movie called Area 51. It's very far-fetched and bizarre, but...
Is it cool, though? I heard it was terrible, and that's why they never released it.
It's cheesy because it's like these kids in their 20s get like military-grade thermal suits and like night vision goggles.
And somehow break in and all that.
And they sneak into the base. It's far-fetched how they sneak into the base. However, when they start going down lower and lower levels, like you start seeing like some crazy stuff.
You said it's on Hulu?
It's on Hulu. It's neat.
Dude,
it's
I remember
a neat watch. It's not something that you're going to watch it and go, man, that changed my life. But it's fun.
I remember when that movie was coming out and he was first working on it and reading in all the horror movie magazines. I was so ready for it, and then it just disappeared. And that's not even the quality of it so much as like, is it marketable and... are people going to get mad because it's some weird alien thing and not ghosts again and all that? Just so I'm going to take these headphones off and let my fiance Libby come on, and she's going to talk to you guys about this. Interesting to hear what you think.
Let's hear it.
Okay. Well.
Hey, Libby.
Hello. So
the Titanic didn't really sink, huh?
Yeah, so the theory goes that the Titanic didn't sink. White Star Lines, which was the people who created the Titanic, had a sister ship to the Titanic that was created about 5 years before the Titanic was, called the Olympic. And the Olympic, about a year before Titanic was supposed to have its maiden voyage, the Olympic had a wreck. And this wreck meant that they had to set back the sailing of the Titanic, but they also had to spend a ton of money on repairs for the Olympic. So they lost a lot of money in this whole having to set back and fix their old ship. And the theory goes that they had a scam planned with the Olympic and the Titanic. And they swapped out the boats before the Titanic's voyage so that the Olympic was actually the one that sailed and sunk. And they collected insurance as if the boat was the Titanic. Of course.
Oh.
Yeah.
I've never heard this. This is fascinating. Is there like a documentary or something you can...
As far as I know, there's not been a documentary done on it, but there's a bunch of like arbitrary evidence.
And I feel like I've heard of the Olympic.
Yeah. The Olympic, being a slightly smaller ship, had less portholes on the side of it. And if you look at pictures of the Titanic when it sails, it has less portholes than it's supposed to have.
Huh.
Also, I think it was a documentary a while back where that gentleman went and did diving and took pictures of the Titanic's wreck. You can look on the side and like you can see, I think it's like MC or like letters that would not be in Titanic's name. The letter M I know is clearly visible in one of the pictures. So the theory is that they took the letters off of the Olympic and they put Titanic on the side of it.
And the iceberg scraped it off and was like, "Not today, fucker." Gotcha.
So what happened to the real Titanic? It continued to operate as the Olympic?
Yes. The idea is that they just swapped out the names. And a lot of another idea that like this kind of reinforces it is a lot of the people who were higher up in society that had bought tickets for the Titanic's maiden voyage didn't show up. Like they had maybe caught wind of this scheme that was happening. So they just, they were like, well, I'm not going to touch that. Good day. Have a nice one.
I mean, people doing shitty things for money doesn't sound very far-fetched to me.
No, I mean, that's the best motivation. Is that insurance scam? I could totally see it happening. So did the Olympic or the Titanic, did it continue to work for years and years and years and then was eventually like decommissioned?
The Olympic continued to sail.
Where is it today?
I don't know.
I think they used it in an experiment in Philadelphia to see if they could.
Oh my gosh. That's another wonderful conspiracy.
I found out more information about the Philadelphia experiment. I found out that it was actually nowhere near Philadelphia. It was in like Norfolk Harbor or something, and it was the USS Philadelphia.
It's the name of the ship.
That's what they call it, the Philadelphia experiment. But it definitely disappeared and reappeared like very far away, and people were fused with the hull. But there's an even crazier extension to that story called the Montauk Project, where they moved to Montauk Point, upstate New York, and they continued to do all these experiments with magnetism and sound. And I heard, again, the legend goes, to keep us out of trouble, we'll say that, the legend goes that they were even bombarding the town below from the army base with these waves, like sonic waves, and they would tune the frequency just a little bit because they had figured out how to literally manipulate moods. So they could make everyone in the town sad, make everyone in the town happy, make everyone in the town aggressive, make everyone in the town go to sleep. Whatever. And they were just kind of like, so all the people who lived near this fucking base were basically just they were like the Sims to these fucking people. But it all came from the Philadelphia experiment. So again, Google some of that stuff. I'm sure there's documentaries on it. But I mean, that even goes into like remote viewing and like teleportation and contact with aliens. And I mean, it gets nuts. But it started with the Philadelphia experiment.
Well, what's crazy too? I mean, look at like Cuba and China, where people are in the embassy, and the U.S. ambassadors are like falling ill to what they think are sonic wave attacks. Have you heard about this? No,
but that's kind of the same. I feel like that's the same idea behind this thing I was talking about.
Like,
ladies and gentlemen, Eliza Weathers. Thank you very much. She's been there. That's right.
But no, like these sonic attacks.
Classing up the podcast here a little bit. Classing us up.
There you go.
Classing us up.
Much needed.
These sonic attacks apparently happened in Cuba back in 2016, and then another one happened in early 2018 in China, I believe.
Right.
And it's like these U.S. ambassadors fell incredibly ill and had horrible headaches and dizziness, and like only them, and they suffered from this. And they also they went through and checked like diets and if they ate the same thing or drank the same thing, and they think it's some sort of like sonic attack. And they're like someone's testing a weapon to see how it affects the brain with these sonic waves.
I feel like some people would have seen a blue hedgehog come in and...
Jesus Christ. Get out.
Get out.
Get out.
I made the only person in this room that matters laugh.
Get out.
Get wrecked.
If you see Dr. Robotnik, tell him to shut up.
You want to look up some crazy, like, weird sci-fi conspiracy theories?
Hell yes.
Look up Dietlov's Pass.
You talk about this all the time. Tell me.
So
is it the people that were radiation?
It's not rad because 9 people died. So what happened was Dietlov's Pass, I believe the teacher took a bunch of college students up to this area in like Ukraine or Russia.
Right.
And it's kind of dangerous, but they went up there to camp. And
they disappeared, and then they were found, and they were like...
Right, well, they disappeared for a few days, and then a search party found them, and when they found them, they found that their tents had been ripped from the inside out. These people run out of the tents. They rip out with like knives and stuff, no shoes on, barely any clothes, and they all run in separate directions. A few of them look like when they followed the tracks met back up at a tree. One guy was trying to climb the tree. A few of them froze to death below. They said that during autopsy reports that these people looked like they had been hit by a bus on the inside, but on the outside showed no signs of being hit. Like their bones were shattered and busted and their organs, like internal bleeding, but they had no signs of bruising or abrasions. One girl had a missing tongue. And she had like an orange tint and was irradiated. Like a Geiger counter was like, like she was. There were, what was it? People left without shoes on, and they speculate that it could have been an avalanche. It could have been near a military base, and the military showed up and was like, you're not allowed to be here. Or it could have been UFOs because people in the town below said that they saw lights a few nights before they went missing. I think those lights were probably flares of people trying to reach out for help. But look up Dyatlov's Pass. It's pretty nuts. And the Russian government covered it up for years. No one knew about it until I want to say 20 years ago or something.
That's pretty far out. I tell you, man, I'd like to kind of close out with one of my favorite conspiracies, which I believe is a true story. And we've talked about this before. And there's a famous movie called Brotherhood of the Wolf that is one of my top probably 3, just depending on what kind of week I'm having. I might want a rom-com in there if I'm sad, but generally
it's a great movie.
Generally, Princess Bride, Tombstone, and Brotherhood of the Wolf is not far behind those movies in my opinion. And it's based on this real thing where there was this thing killing people. And again, this kind of gets into the cryptozoology, and we're going to save that for a whole episode, but something was killing all these people in northern France like a couple hundred years ago, 1700s. And you can still find all the records, all the funeral records. Like, it's on file. This is all documented. Not only is it heavily documented in the records, it's also documented in by, I think, Marco Polo, or wrote Travels with a Donkey, and, he had gone through that town and was amazed at how ravaged it was by all this death.
The guy that invented the swimming pool?
Anyway,
yes!
King Louis XIV sent people over and over again out to this town to try to kill the thing, and every chance. So some people thought it was a vampire, some people thought it was a werewolf. They thought it was all different kinds of stuff. But the conspiracy part of it, where it stops being cryptozoology and starts being conspiracy, is there's a lot of conspiracy that there were these religious cults, or maybe even the church at the time, because the church at the time was sort of having it out with the king.
Yep.
And it was a matter of control and influence and all this kind of stuff. And they painted this picture really well in the movie. I'd only ever heard about the monster up until I saw the movie. And in the movie, they kind of get into a little bit of this, but they think that the creature, whatever it was, whether it was an actual cryptid of some kind or some weird, cross between two animals or something like that, or a maniac in a costume, they believed it was being controlled by the church to strike fear into the town so that they would stay out of control of the king or something like. So there was this kind of underlying thing. But meanwhile, the thing would kill people and it would tear out their heart and drink all their blood. And then sometimes at night it would go to the family of the victim and put its hooves up on the window and peer in at them. It became so brazen that in the reports, people claim it would walk down the street in the middle of the day. Everybody was afraid to come out of there. I mean, it didn't fucking hide.
I need to research it then, because I'm only familiar with it from the movie, and it's the Beast of Gadon. Is that right?
It's the Beast of Le Gévaudan, I think.
Yeah,
if you Google it, it's El Bete, which is Bete, or La Bete, and it's a wonderful story and everything. But again, in the accounts of you reading from not the movie, but the accounts you read from people, they say the thing was totally walked on two legs, would walk down the street in the middle. It said it had the body of a giant boar, but also had the hooves, and it had it's a cross between a bunch of stuff, like a lion and a boar and a tiger, and it was crazy, and it had red eyes, but it would gesture with its front feet, and
the movie, not to spoil it, because it's a little known film, so if you guys listening haven't seen it, Spencer's not wrong, it is well worth your time.
Dude,
go see it.
It's so fucking
But the
rad.
answer it gave for what the creature was, I thought was genius, because it does not betray either option of it being weird or real. And it was very clever.
Now, have you guys ever...
Oh, thank you for not giving it away. You're right. I thought you were about to say what they say it was, but no, you're totally right.
Yeah, giraffe with vampire teeth.
Exactly.
Have you guys ever...
Giraffe pyre.
Have you done research about the cryptid and see maybe if at this point, because I know a lot of times in these type of situations, it turns out that it's usually ergot poisoning from fungus and wheat that causes madness and severe hallucinations across a whole town.
I mean, in this case, like you had piles of bodies that went on over 100 years. Like everybody in the town got killed for generations. Like something was killing it, and it started out killing people that would wander into the meadows. Like I guess a really good job for a teenager back in those days in France was to be like a sheep herder.
Yeah.
And they would the teenagers or whatever, the youngsters would have to take the sheep up in the mountains, and the thing would totally like kill them, tear their heart out, drink the blood. That's why the rumors of vampire and stuff went around.
Or Bigfoot.
It's nuts, man. I think the final guy that killed it shot it with like a silver bullet, but then nobody ever could find it. Like they know they finally got it, but they don't really know what happened to it. Like they're supposed to be taking it to Paris, but it never made it there quite. It's just like it's this crazy story, but it's like it is my favorite crossover of like monster, cryptozoology, conspiracy,
Actual history.
Actual history. It's so badass.
My favorite scary story from history has to be a one involving ergot poisoning, which I'll save for another date in October.
Witch trials?
No, witch trials happen here. I'm talking about something that happened in Europe.
No, he's saving it for October. He wants to debut in October. That's a good call. Okay. I don't even know what you're talking about. I can't wait.
Have I mentioned that I'm related to the first victim of Salem witch trials in this podcast before?
I know that. I don't know if you've mentioned it.
I don't think I knew that.
You didn't know that?
Nope.
Her name is Bridget Bishop, and she was the first one to be executed in the Salem witch trials. And I'm related to her via, Edward Bishop was my blood relative, and he married her, and she was partially Indian and practiced medicines that Native Americans had taught her. And she was also, they were both kind of drunks and fought a lot, and so.
Clearly, you come from a long line of people that just don't know when to keep their mouth shut.
Yep.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Look how happy he is. He's so excited.
If you all could see the weird dance Spencer's doing right now, it's embarrassing.
Everybody
They can hear it.
Once again, Hunter, I'd like to point out that a broken clock is right twice a day. So
that's a fact. And on that note, folks, with that bit of wisdom, when you see something else.
No, I just want to say, to end it out, one more story that you need to go read. I'm not going to talk about it. Go read about Hinterkaifeck. I've brought it up before. It is an interesting cold case murder.
Are there? I remember you've talked about.
Send a link.
Dietlev's Pass and Hinterkaifeck. Were either one of these a documentary? Wasn't one of these a documentary?
I don't believe so. I know
Dietlev's Pass had a movie.
Dietlev's Pass has a movie called Devil's Pass, but it's more of like a horror movie based off of.
But it's not actual.
No, it's not. It's a slow burn, not a great movie at all. But the ending is. I like the ending. It was pretty cool.
All right. Okay. And I thought about that. And I thought, didn't he say we need to watch a movie about that?
Devil's Pass.
Devil's Pass, Brotherhood of the Wolf. That's your homework this week, folks.
And Area 51.
And Area 51.
And go Google Hinterkaifeck and read that chilling story.
All right. And let's also say that, let's all get our ass to the movie and watch Meg.
Hell yeah.
It's going to be so good.
How about that? We would love to hear what you guys say. Hopefully by the next time you hear us, we will have seen the movie. We'll have some opinions about it. But we would love to hear what you guys think about it. Even if you think it's a turd, just write in and let us know. We can debate on it a little bit. I'm probably going to try to defend it. But then you never know. If it's really bad, I might turn on it pretty quickly. Folks, we're going to go ahead and sign off and let you get on to your night. Thanks again for joining us at the Beacon House Podcast. We really, really appreciate you guys always. We've had a chance now. We've done a couple of events. We've met some of you guys face to face. And it's amazing when somebody comes up to us and they go, man, that thing that was in that story. And
well, anyways, thanks to my fiance, Libby, for joining us for a few minutes.
That's right. Thanks for classing the whole thing up. And folks, Casey, why don't you tell them real quick where they can find us on social media?
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Beacon House Knox. You can email us at our Gmail, beaconhouseknox@gmail.com. And that's pretty much it. YouTube, Spotify, iTunes.
Yeah,
give us
all
a
the
like,
places you can't find
comment.
Alex Jones.
It's everywhere. Yeah, that's everywhere you can't find Alex Jones.
We're better than Alex Jones.
Damn right. So anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining us today. And I'm Spence.
I'm Casey.
I'm Hunter, and Batfleck is the best.
I can't remember my kids' names. I had a big bowl of chili.
Oh my.